I just wanted to mention one thing, that's connected with Israel and in general Zionism, because I think it was just the other day I was watching a program with, I think it was NEMA, Dialogue Works, and he was interviewing Mark Sloboda. And I say that Mark, I mention him by name in this case because I have the greatest respect for Mark Sloboda. And I find his analysis to be, generally I feel spot on, and his predictions have held up very well over time. But he made one comment that, he was actually talking about something that we talk about often, and that is the change in opinion, the really massive change of opinion, vis-a-vis Palestine and Israel that is taking place in this country. Again, opinion polls show that majorities are favoring Palestine over Israel. Majorities are in favor of cutting off arms supplies to Israel. And we never saw anything like that before. That the support for Israel had been overwhelming for the longest time. It began to soften, some years ago, but that's really accelerated. And we're seeing shifts actually in nearly every demographic, especially young people, especially on the Democrat side of the spectrum. But we also are seeing it among young, Republicans. And we've said, I think this is in the short term is probably not going to make any difference. Unfortunately, it's just that the establishment is solidly Zionist, and there's no sign of that changing, anytime in the foreseeable future. But in the long run, I think that means changes. And he said that he felt, he describes himself as a professional cynic. He said, it's just never going to change. It doesn't matter what people think about foreign policy. The foreign policy establishment does what it does. And I thought about it and said, maybe I'm not being cynical enough, again, because I take his comments very, very seriously. But on reflection, I felt that there's something different, like probably in general is true, because there's one thing is like the fact is that American voters don't put, the vast majority of American voters don't put foreign policy first. They actually put it way down on the list. Occasionally they're like, during the Vietnam War, if there's it can become an important issue. It can become the leading issue. But most of the time, almost all the time, it's foreign policy really doesn't matter. It may matter very much to people like us, and it should matter, I think, to other people, but it just doesn't. And, you may ask them in an opinion poll, what do you think about, what's going on in Kyrgyzstan or something? And they'll have an opinion, but it's not a strongly held opinion. Often they don't know, where this place is. They couldn't find it on a map. But Israel and Palestine, I think, is really very, very different. It is something that, first of all, many people are passionately attached to one or another party in a way that you just don't find with any other conflict or foreign policy issue. So this is something that really does matter to people, and people do. It makes a difference. And that's true up and down the line. We're not just talking, common people and people within the elites too. So first of all, it's just a passion, that is attached to this issue. So, when you say, you look at sometimes numbers, you can have something 80%, but if people don't feel strongly about it, it doesn't really matter. And the establishment can ignore that, and they can change their opinions by, just shaping the news or whatever. In this case, it's just not that easy. Again, opinions on this issue are passionately held, across the spectrum on both parties. But then also, this issue is, though you can say it's a foreign policy issue, it's not just a foreign policy issue. It has huge domestic ramifications in a way that no other foreign policy issue does. Meaning that, let's just give the example of the Charlie Kirk assassination, because a lot of questions have come up after it. And this, it's been revealed that he was going to leave the pro-Israeli camp. He made a statement 48 hours before he was assassinated. And other things, that he had been shouted at by his donors. Again, these Israeli, Zionist donors. And all this has come out, and you say it's a foreign policy issue, but we're talking about an assassination that took place on American soil, and a person who was deeply, involved in American politics, and he had been funded by these people and was turning on them. Again, it's just like it's become the Israel-Palestine issue and Zionism in general is not just something out there. It's something that is debated and felt here. The repercussions, are here in the U.S. Another example is that, a lot of free speech issues, whereas our government is cracking down, the Trump administration on anti-Zionist speech. We see that happening. It's actually, I saw some report just the other day that a lot of professors at colleges say, I used to teach that course on Palestine or something. I'm not teaching it anymore because actually I could be fired. I could lose my tenure even. It's just there's a real fear to speak out. And of course, those people are various people. Again, they were not U.S. citizens. When you're talking about the professors, those are U.S. citizens, and their speech has been chilled. But we had like foreign students that were just grabbed because they had the wrong opinions. Again, and this, again, the domestic. This is a foreign policy issue, you can say, but it's not like any other foreign policy issue. You see the consequences on our own soil. It's affecting our most fundamental right, you could say, which is the right of free expression. So I think this is a different kind of foreign policy issue. And I think that shift in opinion is very significant in a way that it might not be for any other foreign policy issue. So I'll just have to disagree with Mark Sloboda on this. I think it really will. It is a tectonic shift, and it will have very important, repercussions down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think just because there's such a rabbit hole you can go down when you start going down the Israel rabbit hole. Because for the longest time, most people didn't care about Israel. It's like, oh yeah, I heard about Israel. They're, maybe they're the only democracy I heard in the Middle East.
Yeah, or they cared about it. It was entirely positive.
It was entirely positive. It's just the little bits of Zionist propaganda narrative that was planted throughout our education and throughout our television. We're just like, oh yeah, they're fighting terrorists or something. They're kind of like us, like a European city in the Middle East. It's all great. And then you start going down just the rabbit hole. And now that's the thing. Everybody's going down that rabbit hole, and you can just fall so far. I mean, we have all these problems here in our own country. And then you start to think like, oh, wait a second. We're sending our taxpayer dollars over here, and they have free health care, and they get free university.
$33 billion in the last 2 years since October 7th.
Right, $33 billion last 2 years. Right. It's crazy. And then just overall, and then you start learning about AIPAC, and there's 5 million AIPAC members here, and every single congressman, if you look how many times they tweet, I stand with Israel, it's insane. How many times they say, I stand for America? Hardly ever. You have Ted Cruz saying that the Bible tells me we have to worship Israel. It's like, it's my duty when I enter.
Recently Ted Cruz said that was what motivated him to run, for the Senate was Israel. Right. So it's just that's another thing I want to point out is like that it is more than a foreign policy. It's become a domestic issue because, you have people waving Israeli flags at rallies and whatever, and the whole MAGA idea has actually just, has become confused with MAGA, make Israel great again. And that has led to, to a lot of questioning and a lot of anger, because that there is this effort to somehow not exactly meld the identities, but to make Israeli identity and support for Israel part of being a patriotic American. And you just don't find that with any other foreign policy issue.
Right. But it's so disgusting to people now when they figure that out. But that's true. That is a meld that somehow supporting Israel is part of the American culture and the identity. But I think there's just becoming just this total revulsion to it for so many people because they go down that rabbit hole and they just say wait a second, we've just been lied to. Not only we've been lied to, you used us. You use us not only just to take our money, but to steal other people's land and to kill all these people. And we saw it. And then we're being gaslighted constantly on why it's such a great thing that we're blowing up these children in the Middle East. It's insane. There's this anger. And then you start going even further down. You go down wait, about the 9/11 stuff. Wait, were they aware of it? What's up with the dancing Israelis? You start going down the Epstein stuff. There is just so much. And then you get to this point where you're just like, I know who the enemy is. I know we've been taken over. And it's these guys that have told us that we're the greatest thing in the world since sliced bread, and you got to support us and give us all your money, and then God will reward you. It's just so sinister. It's not like somebody just got caught us and they're like, oh, we're like, oh, silly you got me good. It's like, no, there's real anger and retribution that is, building up in this country. And so I agree 100%. Of course, it's not going to just disappear. And you said, maybe in the short term, it'll stay the same. I don't even know in the short term. I'm thinking that in this next like midterm elections, this is such a big issue now that everybody wants to know, are you America first or are you Israel first? And you see it at I see clips where, politicians are at the town hall and then people start up and shouting. It's like, well, hey, do you take AIPAC money? Do you stand with the the U.S. or do you stand with Israel? This is becoming front and center, and I'm hoping that it stays front and center in the midterms. And I just want it to be like, I'm at the point where I'm becoming just a single issue voter. And it's like, I just want to know. I want to know, like, wait, do you take money from AIPAC? How many times have you tweeted, I stand with Israel? If I see it once, then you're out. I don't want to see it. Just get out of here. And I think so many people are like that. And I don't even care about the other stuff so much anymore. People want to go Mandami or whatever. It's like, well, at least he's not, being controlled by some foreign lobbyists, foreign country that's stealing our money and killing just for the most evil thing, genocide. The one thing that we said would never happen again. That it's nuts.